Well, the problem is, as you know, for years it kept dropping interest rates, and now Powell's raising it. The real problem is the bond market's crashing. And the bond market is systemic, as you know. I mean, I'm concerned about IRAs, pension plans, and all that. So this is more than I'm concerned, should I say. And, thank you for all these years letting me come on your program and say, buy silver, buy gold. Because when I first started coming on, I think this was $3 and this was $50. And now it's $2,000. And it didn't get any bigger, Neil. Now, the thing that I see is that the Fed and the FDIC are signaling hyperinflation, which makes gold and silver even better because this thing here is trash. They're going to print more and more of this fake money. And that's what the Fed and the FDIC is signaling. We're going to print as much of this as possible to keep the crash from accelerating. But they're the guys who are causing it. Let me say it again. The problem is the bond market. And my prediction, I called Lehman Brothers years ago. And I think the next bank to go is Credit Suisse because the bond market is crashing. All those bonds, let's say you're getting paid 5% for a bond and it goes to 10%, the 5% bond crashes. And the bond market is much bigger than the stock market, as we know. So Absolutely. The Fed is the top, and they're what they say, the firemen and the arson. And all the countries of the world are in U.S. bills, T-bills and T-bonds. And we had the BRICS nations coming up. They hate us, and they might switch to the Chinese gold, yuan. So we're in serious trouble. The U.S. dollar is losing its hegemony in the world right now. And they're going to print more and more and more of this, trying to keep this thing from sinking.
But that's been going on for years, right, Robert? I mean, we have these huge days like this, and you're quite right to note it's a clear phenomenon today. But we've had these punctuating our history over the last 20 plus years. What makes this go round different?
Because our debt to GDP is over 130. And every time they raise those interest rates, America's taxpayer gets hammered. And my concern is the pensions are in trouble because they're loaded with bonds also. And my generation, the boomers, we're starting to retire. So this is the perfect storm in many ways. So like I said again, I think the Fed and the FDIC signaled they're going to print again, which makes stocks good. But this little silver coin here is still the best. It's $35, So I reckon anybody can afford $35, and I'm concerned about Credit Suisse. And what will happen is then instead of a bailout, bailouts what happened with Lehman Brothers in 2008. And so the taxpayer gave money to Lehman Brothers. What will happen is this: there'll be a bail-in, which happened in Cyprus in 2008, is Bank of America, when they give all those treasuries back or the bonds back to the Fed, people will run on Bank of America, and Bank of America will say, so you and I go to the bank and say, we want our money back. We want our savings back. And Bank of America says, our door is shut because there's a run on the bank. But guess what? Instead of your cash or your savings, we'll give you back stock in Bank of America. That's a bail-in. Now, I hope it doesn't happen, but that's what I was writing about. So as you know, I'm a huge gold, silver nut. And I would rather have silver right now, which is the biggest bargain in world history today. Real estate was my generation's investment because it was debt. For your generation, it's silver because right today in America, it's cost me $30 to buy a silver eagle. $30. This stuff is trash. This is trash here. Cash is trash. So that's a bail-in, bail-out. That's what happens. You have a repo and a reverse repo. So the reverse repo is the banks are giving back the money to the Fed. We don't want it. Well, the fear is when you have so many people, all over the world who went to school and drank this Kool-Aid. Go to school. This is my Poor Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is my book. So what happens? You go to school, get a job, work hard, pay taxes, save money, buy a house because your house is an asset, get out of debt and put your money in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. Worst financial advice possible. But that Kool-Aid is swinging around all of our heads who went to school. And so the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is that was a song of my poor dad. My poor dad was a PhD. I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, of this, the Fed, this guy Powell just announced yesterday, he's going to raise interest rates again. So what that's going to do is Andy Schectman says this is called the 3 times crash. All paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs crash. Real estate's going to crash. And this is going to crash, the US dollar. So far, David, all the years you've interviewed me, I'm a freaking gold and silver bug, as you know, and not ETFs. I am hard assets.